Cool.
Alrighty, folks, we're going to give you a little taste, a little tease of a new face and a new voice that will be coming to the Vegas event February 15th and 16th. He was sitting in the audience last year, but he will be up on stage this year. It is my boy, Mr. Fred. How you doing, Fred?
Good, Mike. And yourself? How about you, man?
I'm doing really, really well. We were lucky enough to have you on the show probably, I don't know, let's call it 6 months ago.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
let's
about 6 months.
Yeah, let's remind people what your day job is, what you do on Sunday, and then we really dive into why you're going to be one of the featured speakers at our upcoming event.
All right, so I'm what you would call a bivocational pastor, man. I am a senior pastor of a church here in Alaska. And then, of course, my 8 to 5 during the week, my 9 to 5 is a mental health therapist. So I sit with people, help them work through all their issues, their challenges of life. And of course, that comes with diagnosis, man, depression, anxiety, whatever it is that they're dealing with, man. And I help them walk through that stuff and get to their point of success, their place of wellness. So that's what I do.
That's what you do. And I clicked with you immediately at our last event. Actually, it was even before the event started. You asked one question at the Ryan Pineda kind of off the cuff event. I'm like, that's my guy.
Ah,
He's asking the right questions, and you come at this from a level of service and just being inquisitive. So I loved all our conversations. I appreciated that interview we did, and I'm so happy you said yes. Now I want to kind of brainstorm because you're still probably thinking, what the heck did I get myself into? Is that fair?
you are 100% correct. You
Well,
are 100% correct.
well, let me paint a vision of what I think the 450 people in the audience, right? This is a
Okay.
gross generalization, but I think it's going to have enough edges that you're going to see, okay, I can come in and kind of hopefully shave some of these edges. So
Cool.
first and first and foremost, I think obviously most of the people in the audience will have rentals or be in the process of getting them.
Okay.
You have undoubtedly heard me say that the first 5 years are hard,
Yep.
and it's hard for everybody, right? And there's going to be many great days and many bad days. So I would love, to give people kind of tools or tricks, to kind of identify and, don't never get too high and never get too low, right? Kind of self-diagnosis.
Sure.
I I'm putting out there something that I call the school community, right, for one rental at a time, because again, I'm trying to again create a platform for like-minded individuals that
Hmm.
can be a place to help people, right? You have a bad day, you put it up. You have a great day, put it up. Let people celebrate your wins and help you on your bad days. But there's
Absolutely.
probably a lot of other things. The other thing you've undoubtedly heard me say is fire your friends, right? We as human beings like to be comfortable.
Hmm.
Um, Getting on this financial freedom journey or becoming an investor typically means you're the oddball in your network, right? Because it's not
Absolutely.
not something that lots of people do. So I think some people need some tools and tricks again to self-identify and say it's okay. Growth is supposed to be uncomfortable, right? It's how
Yep.
you learn, right? There's that
Absolutely.
one. And then the big one for me that's kind of amplification today is social media, right? Social media, it actually could be wildly good for you, but most
Hmm.
people don't use it that way. They get nervous or envious or angry or whatever. And I think we have to do a better job of caring for what we social to me, social media is like a direct line to your brain.
Mm.
And if you don't treat it with that respect, you're going to feed yourself poison. So those are the kind of three things that I looked at in broad strokes, knowing who's going to be in the room. And I said, Fred's my guy, uh, who's going to kind of make them feel comfortable, but also help them move forward. That's kind of, I'll let you ask
Yeah.
questions, but that's my thoughts.
No, no, that's cool. Yeah, I like those, Mike. Of course, the questions I sent to you was really based on kind of what is Mike's vision for the ORaaT family in regard to where you're headed, right? What the focus is for ORaaT, because ORaaT's different, man. I don't know if a lot of people really understand that. That word different means that it's not a get rich quick deal, right? There's a lot of people out there that are selling get rich quick. Jump on the bandwagon, man. You can do this 2 or 3 weeks. You're there, right? No. One thing I love about you, Mike, is that you say 3 words that I say every single day to clients: do the work. So in therapy, you come to therapy, and this is kind of the vision I had for this. I was going to walk us through kind of what a person goes through in order to get to a place of wellness. And let's just call it, for this particular aspect, financial wellness, right? So clients come in with a problem. We have to figure out a long-term goal. And then we have objectives that we have to meet in order to get to that long-term goal. That long-term goal is identifying what wellness looks like for them. So in this particular instance, it'd be, what does financial wellness look like for you, right? As Coach said, what's your number, right? So, we're going to go back to some of that, right? But at the end of the day, we really need to identify, what are we doing? So I'm going to work backwards based on what you just shared. Social media, right? One of the best questions you can ask is, what am I looking for when I get online? What do I want to get out of my time online, right? And what am I doing? What am I doing? Identifying what you're doing is a huge deal. So like, some people can come into therapy and say, I want to be happy. Well, that's broad.
Yeah.
That's super broad. I mean, everybody wants to be happy, right? But the question is, for you, what is it keeping you from being happy? Because you really don't want to be happy. You want to get rid of what's stopping you from being happy. And so that's where we need to do the work. And that's those 3 words: do the work, right? That's where we need to work. So when I stand before everybody, the goal is really going to be trying to help people get into that space in their mind of, number one, what am I doing? Why am I sitting here today? Like, what drew me to this? Like, am I really, because first they need to identify, am I really an ORaaT person?
Yeah.
Right? Because do the work is like, for people today, man, that's intimidating. You're talking to a microwave generation, and you're saying, do the work. It's like you're telling people who would rather put a TV dinner in the microwave, hey, don't do that. Actually take the time to cut up the food, put the seasoning on, and actually stand over the stove and cook it. That's what you're in essence saying, right? And that sounds crazy to people, because they're saying, why do that when we have Instapots, air fryers, and microwaves, right? Like Mike, we're moving to the fast stuff, man. We're not trying to. But what they don't understand is that everybody who's a billionaire today, they started from that place. They started from that place. They started from the bare bones basics. Everybody is not super entrepreneurial in their mind, but everybody can start somewhere. And that's what we need to identify. Where can I start for? What am I doing? What's my why?
Love it.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Of course, in a cleaner piece of, kind of a cleaner line, of course, making it a lot more linear. The fire your friends, of course, who's around you, right? Of course, we like to be comfortable. We love people to tell us you're doing great, you're doing awesome. We hate for people to question what we're doing, right? But I don't know, Mike. I think sometimes it's good to have people around you that can question what you're doing. I think it's good for you to have adversity sometimes, right? Because every once in a while you need to explain yourself. You really need to explain like what you're doing, why you're doing it. There needs to be a constant revisit as to who you are, what you are, and why you are.
Agreed.
And so you will have some naysayers, and that's okay. And you have to get to a place where you're okay with that, right? There's a mental health disorder called borderline personality disorder, where people always sort of, one of the issues for those individuals is those individuals always worried about, what do people think about me? How do I show up? How do people see me? They're always worried about that. And so, one of the ways to get around that is really recognizing that I'm not living for everybody else. I'm living for me. Everybody's narrative is different. And so going back to that number, what's your number? Your number is different from everybody else's number. What it takes for you to be financially successful in a place of wellness, free, looks different than it does for Bobby, looks different than it does for Mike. Right. And so you've got to be able to say to your friends, hey, man, I hear you, but this journey is a journey I got to be on for myself. While they might have a fast track way of, doing things for them, that may not be for you, right? Which you got to
Agree.
find your stress point. Some
I like it.
people are not able to do a lot of things at one time. I'm not a guy who's a flip guy. I'm not a guy who goes into a project and is like, yeah, I'm all about coming in here, renovating it. And no, I want to buy a place and I want to have it ready to rent, man. I don't want to build out this. I don't want to tear this down. I don't want to, right? I
I
want to go
get it.
into a place that looks relatively decent, do a few upgrades, right?
Yeah.
And then rent it, you
There you
know?
go.
And I'm going to hire people to do that, man. I'm not going to be the guy to go in with sledgehammers and do
Me
demolition
neither.
jobs. And I'm not that guy, man. I'm not that guy. I don't have a passion for that. Some people
Yeah.
do, you know,
Yes.
but you got to find out who you are in that whole process. And you really have to have that internal dialogue. We're going to talk about that too, internal dialogue. Who am I talking? Who do I allow to speak to me every day? The first person that should be speaking to you is you,
Agreed.
right? A lot of times we wake up and the first thing we do is grab the phone and we listen to everybody's podcast. We listen to everybody's YouTube blog. We listen to, all these different audio books online. But the first question is, who is listening?
All right.
Yeah. Why are you listening?
Yep.
Again,
Okay.
what are you listening for? Right.
Yep.
Everybody wants the magic potion. Everybody wants the magic words. And you're saying words that aren't magic, man. You're saying
No.
do the work. That's not magic, right?
No. I
You're,
agree.
you're not saying I want to connect you with this guy. I want to connect you with that guy. Show up to my conference and you're going to be a millionaire next week. You're saying show up, do the work, and you'll get some results. And I think, Mike, to be honest with you, we live in a society where that has kind of gotten outside of the box in regard to thought process. Like nobody
I
wants to
agree
be
with
that in
you.
the box,
Yeah, I
right?
agree with you. I actually hope, and this is just a total side note and tangent.
Yeah.
I am hoping because I'm thinking bigger pockets, and actually I just saw Pace Morby.
Mm,
Both firms, both very large content creators,
huge.
who huge, right? And both of them are talking about back to basics. Like I heard Pace the other day say, "Hey, just get to 5 units and your life is good." Right? I talk about four. Hey, you want to go to five? By all means. And obviously, bigger pockets has distanced themselves from creators who kind of you and I might call risky or get rich
Uh-huh.
quick. Right? They're
Yep.
just. I am hoping that do the work is not a not crazy talk. It kind of
Mike, it's
felt like crazy
gospel.
talk for a while. Yeah.
It's gospel, man. It's ORaaT gospel. I'm trying to tell you,
Yeah.
you need to get shirts that say do the work,
There you
right?
go.
That's all they say, man. It's just do the work, so that it spawns the question, what work am I doing? Right. And just kind of breaking that down. But at the end of the day, man, like really people need to first understand that there has to be some kind of structure, right?
Yes.
And that's what I mean by the box, being inside the box. Getting outside the box means that you've already mastered what's inside the box, and now you're looking to do something that might push you a little bit further.
Hmm.
But you gotta first start with some type of structure, right?
Yes.
Um, you know, your book talks about buy box, right? What's your buy box? Well, just that word box alone puts you into a mindset of okay, what's within my boundaries,
Yes.
right? What
Even more important to me, and I'd love your opinion on this, because a buy box or a box in this, a box is two things. What's in it, sure. What is not in it is equally, if
that's
not
good, Mike.
more important.
That's good. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, no, no. Yeah, absolutely. What's not in it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at what I have, looking at what I still need,
Mm-hmm.
right? Looking at why it's not in there, right?
And it's okay. Lots of things aren't in there. It's okay. Don't get
Absolutely.
crazy.
When we talk
Yeah.
about a mental health perspective, okay, I've got these things in my box, and I put these things in my box because what? Do they fall within my guidelines?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it because somebody else told me to put it here?
Right.
Right? That box gives us an opportunity to constantly assess ourselves. So it's these types of things. But mentally, man, when you start talking about real estate, mentally speaking, real estate is one of those places that people have always sort of been curious about,
Mm-hmm.
um, but afraid of because it seems
Yeah.
huge. It seems huge, man. It's not a. It's funny. I had a conversation with a few people before about just investment, the word investment. And most people wanted to lean more towards a stock than they did towards real estate.
Mm.
And I asked them, well, what's the attraction of stock? They said, oh, it's just, you don't have to do anything. You just put money into something and wait for it to grow. And then if it doesn't grow, you pull the money out, right?
Mhm.
And I said, huh, but really, stocks take a whole lot more work than real estate. And how so? It's because you got to go back and you got to look at the business that you're investing in. You got to see what it did last year. You got to see why it didn't do what it's supposed to do last year. Like what was the season? What was going on? I mean, that's a real investor, right?
Mhm.
We're not talking about options here. Like you just kind of a gamble. We're talking about real stock investment. When we start talking about real estate's not really as complicated as
No.
one would think,
Yeah.
right? You're gonna first of all, people are gonna always need a place to live.
Mhm.
The market might slow down, but it is gonna always turn around in some way, shape, or form, right? It might look different, but it's gonna always turn around.
Mhm.
So the wait period might be a little long, but that's okay. That's why you got a 9 to 5, right?
Yep. Yep.
So there's the safety in that. Um, so there are these things that kind of make it attractive, but I don't think a lot of people really pay attention to that whole picture. So mentally, kind of asking yourself like, what am I really afraid of?
Mm.
What
Yeah.
what scares me about this venture? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna guess it's the classic tenants, toilets, and termites. Right? There's lots of
absolutely. That's what
the
scared
bad.
me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very common. We have to demystify that. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I had people who were renters before. Like I said, I was a banker at one time.
Mhm.
And they would come in the branch all the time and complain about not getting their rent on time, or people moving out and trashing their unit, and they had all this money they had to invest in fixing it up, and but I didn't know much about it, and so I didn't really have any solutions for them. I just kind of thought, well, this guy's the expert, man. He's having a really tough time. That must not be something I need to get
Yeah,
into.
that sounds hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds terrible, right? who
Exactly.
who in their right mind would do that,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not doing that. Yeah, yeah.
So for a long time, I just never did it.
Mm.
But then my wife, she, like I said, she bought your book, watched your YouTube channel, and was like, let's try this. Just one.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, let's try this one. Let's see. And we put all the things up that addressed our fears. Property manager, we had to have one. That was an agreement between us, right?
Mhm.
We had to have people who could go in and do some of the upgrades and things that we needed. And we had to make sure that it was going to be in a place where no matter the market, it was going to always do something.
Okay. I
Didn't have
like
to
it.
be amazing, but it was going to do something. It was going to have to produce some kind of return,
Mhm.
right? It didn't have to be a fast return either. It didn't have to be gigantic, huge. It just had to be fair.
Okay. I like it.
And guess what? It was a success. After that, we said, hey, this wasn't that bad. We're still married.
I
And
like it.
hey, we said, this is good. Let's try it again. And we kept doing it and we kept doing it and we kept doing it. And now we're up to 9. So yeah, life has been good since one rental at a time. That's why I don't mind partnering with you. That's why I don't mind having these conversations with you, because I know that what you're doing is not, it's not normal.
Mm.
Now I say that like I'm not saying like it's a bad thing.
No, I
I'm
know.
just saying like it comes at a time when everybody's trying to make money off of the masses really quick
Mhm.
and move on, right? Like, hey, I hope you got the message. See you later. I'm a
Yeah.
billionaire, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you come along like, hey, like I was at a place in my life where I needed this and I figured it out, and I want to make it a little bit easier for you, just in case you're
Yeah.
in that place in your life and you need it, right? And like that's is something thoughtful about that, and there's something super huge and gracious about that. So it says a lot about you, but um, I really hope people tap into it.
It is I mean, we saw it together at the last event, and this one will be likely even better. There's just a
Yeah,
different energy. It's the crowd. It's
it
the
is.
it's and I think you're right, right? One of the things actually I took from Dave Ramsey was just stay on
Mm,
message.
mm.
Because Dave Ramsey's been saying the same thing for 30 years.
Stay on message, big time.
Just stay, do the work, focus, daily discipline, My story hasn't changed. I actually went back and watched my Bigger Pockets interview with Josh Dorkin from 2000. I think it was 2011.
Wow.
And I didn't have the buy box. I didn't have some of the vocabulary, but
Yeah.
it's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. So, yeah, when you stay on message, you do it for years. We're now year 6 of this message.
Yeah.
You know, you do build a tribe, a loyal following.
Sure.
And what I really love to enjoy is watching the community interact with each other and kind
Mm,
of hear my words in the
absolutely.
stories, but in
Yep.
their own context. I'm like,
Makes
it's
sense.
working. It's working. We're getting better.
Makes sense. No, that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. You are creating a conversation, or I should say, created a conversation that is ongoing. Um, it's extremely thoughtful for you to add a mental health perspective to it, right? I remember in our communication back and forth, you said there was a moment that you want to do Q&A, and and if you don't mind, I'll run that Q&A piece all the way through the presentation, really,
Perfect.
giving people an opportunity to kind of just popcorn thoughts that they have in the moment, because that's just how our brains work, right?
Yep.
But the goal is really to get people at the beginning of my presentation that by the time they get to the end of the presentation, say to themselves, either first of all, ask themselves, what's holding me back from being even better at this? What's holding me back from even trying it? Or um, what else do I need to feel even more secure about it?
I like it.
Right? Some people
Perfect.
can come in and be like, I think I'm at one, maybe I'm even at three, right? And I just like I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed, right? Okay, so what's
Mhm.
some of those questions we can ask? Is like, what's making you feel overwhelmed? Right? Was this
Yeah.
last one bigger than you wanted it to be? Like, did you bite off more, than you could chew? I mean, I don't know. Like, these are some very real questions you got to ask yourself.
Mhm.
But this is not a competition. I think that's something that a lot of people think about when they get into things with money. They think that
Yeah.
they're like, am I in this certain percentile? You're your only percentile,
Right.
right? Like, you're doing what works best for you, right? The information is there. Take the information, use it, right? But use it to the best of your needs. So,
Yeah.
man, I'm excited about it.
Me too. I yeah,
Um,
I love it. So do you think an hour is the right number, like in total?
I think so. I
Okay.
think so. Yeah, 45 minutes I think is good.
All right.
Yeah, I think so, man. 45 minutes to an hour, that's fine. You know, because I think people will have questions.
Yeah.
They'll have relational questions like, what do I do in my marriage situation? What do I do for me? I failed before,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about trauma,
Okay.
how past trauma navigates your behavior today, right? It
For
sort
sure.
of,
Yeah.
makes you, or should I say, dictates your behavior today, right?
Hmm.
Maybe you came from humble beginnings and you're a believer, like, I don't think I could ever do this. I don't think I deserve it, right? Some people don't even feel like they deserve it. Maybe some people have bad behaviors financially, period. Like they just like, I just keep dreaming about it, but I never really actually put, action to it, right? I don't do the work.
Right.
Maybe somebody's purchased the book, but it's still sitting on the shelf. They haven't even cracked it yet.
Yeah. Maybe.
You got some people who come to conferences, man, and they love to be around the energy,
Yeah.
right? It's like, man,
Yeah.
this is great. I feel this is awesome, right? But I haven't done anything yet. I love
I
it.
have
I love
seen
it.
that.
This is
Yeah.
great, but I haven't done anything yet, right? They love to hear the success stories. They like the energy of the cheering. They love it, but they haven't even started to be part of that
Yeah.
process yet. So
Awesome.
it's just so many things. There's so many areas, so many avenues we could go down. Um, but I think this first go around will really be focused on uh, what's the fear,
Yep.
getting them out of that, and then recognizing that it's not the thing that's difficult. It's
Right.
me that's making the thing difficult, right? It's
I
not
like
the
it.
thing that's difficult. It's me that's
Yes.
making the thing difficult. Some people are even afraid of numbers. They're like, man, I was
Mm.
never good at math.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah, I was never good at math. I'm afraid of signing tons of paper that make me responsible for this big 100,000, $400,000 number, right? Um, yeah, it's a lot of things, man. I mean, having worked in banking and talking to people about money, and I mean people who are real estate owners specifically,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things they used to say were, um, I can remember when I first, this one guy said, I can remember when I first started this out, I was so afraid to sign my first contract, to sign my first mortgage,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, what was the fear? He was like, man, it was like $600,000. You know, here in Alaska, I mean, things are expensive. And he's like, yeah, it was like $600,000. And I was like, what, did you feel like you couldn't pay for it? And he said, no, it wasn't that. It was just like, what if,
Mm-hmm.
what if, and
Just
it was
just
always like, what
the
if this happens?
weight.
What if that
Yeah.
happens? What if this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so he did it, but he said it took him forever to make the appointment to do it. He was just so
Mm-hmm.
afraid. And it was all about a what if, right? Catastrophic thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes catastrophic thinking causes us to have what we call analysis paralysis, right? We're just kind of stuck in our thoughts, analyzing
Yep.
it. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many reasons why people could be paused, but yeah, we're gonna, and hopefully we can do some like right there in the moment things to help people get breakthrough.
I love that. One of the things I'm thinking about this because I have a suspicion that you're going to help everybody, but I have a sneaky suspicion there'll be, I don't know, 8 to 16 folks in the room that have something private that they're going to want to share with you
Sure.
uniquely, right? They don't want to talk in a big forum. So what I'm
Yeah.
thinking about doing, because I can already envision that, is
Mhm.
have you go right before lunch. That
That
way you go
works.
through lunch, we wrap, I say a couple of things, then there's 2 hours where people can go speak with you. That
Yep.
that's what I'm thinking
I'm
because
game.
okay.
I'm game.
Okay.
And that's super thoughtful, man. I think you're right. You might have some folks that will say, man, I just don't want to speak out in this forum, but I would love to talk to this guy's side, off the side.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm all
I
about
think
it.
awesome.
I'm all
You're
about it.
you're you're so awesome. All right. So again, new faces, new voices, new topics for the event February 15th and 16th. We got a lot more cool things coming. Fred, coming from Alaska down to help us. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say as we wrap this up?
Yeah, you know what? I want to encourage folks to do the work on themselves, right? To do the work on themselves, but not only on themselves, Mike, in themselves.
Mm,
Not only on themselves, but in themselves. We could look at our bank account and we could say, man, I wish, I want, I desire.
mm-hmm.
But the bank account, our lives, our material lives are really a reflection of who we are on the inside. And so the question would be like, what do you want there? Even if it's just simple financial freedom, like
Yeah.
just kind of retiring, feeling like I'm going to retire okay.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a desire, right? Asking yourself on the inside, what's holding me from doing that?
Yeah.
What's holding me from doing that? And do I feel like I have enough information to do that? Right? The reason I believe one rental at a time is extremely powerful is because it is a gentle approach and walk into a world that most people are afraid of, but you make it extremely friendly. It's a user
Yeah.
friendly approach. And so, yeah, man, don't only work on yourself, but also work in yourself.
Folks, you're going to want to be at this event. You're going to want to see Fred in action. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Buddy, take care of yourself. Have fun.
All right, Mike.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.